Hey everybody, it's me, the anti-hero, John Anthony Chihawk Soltetto, here with another edition of The Breakdown. Um, for some of you who maybe missed, my four-part series on the Laurie Strode legacy of the Halloween movies, the reason I call this The Breakdown is kind of twofold. One is because you're breaking down different aspects of different things, whether it's a comic book, a movie, a video game. In this case, the Battle Android Trooper action figure from Super 7. But I also kind of am doing it as a tongue-in-cheek reference to my own mental health. Having a breakdown is something that you can do if even if you don't have a mental health diagnosis. If you're stressed to a point, you may have a breakdown. Sometimes this happens more than others. So it's kind of my way of I make fun of things, serious things, in order to take power back from them. So to some people, it's really offensive or questionable. They don't understand it. It's kind of shocking. But this stems all the way back, 20 plus years ago when I was making fun of the fact that I had cancer. And I did it so that I could own that and I could take that power away from something that should be really, really scary. Um, and mental health issues are something I've had my entire life. So why not call it The Breakdown? Um, but enough of that seriousness. We're here to break down the BAT, the Battle Android Trooper from Python Patrol. This is from the Super 7 G.I. Joe Classified series. Good window packaging. I believe this is from before Hasbro was saying, well, we're going to do plasticless packaging. Um, I don't think that's going to work. I've discussed that in some other videos that I've done on the breakdown for different action figures. And a plasticless, windowless packaging, while it may be better for the environment, is going to turn a lot of collectors off. First off, Hasbro with their Legends series with G.I. Joe and the other figures that they're putting out, Star Wars Black Series and stuff like that, they're raising prices because production costs are going up, which we understand. However, these companies still operate at a significant profit. They're not operating at breaking even or even the slightest bit of profit. They're going to figure out every way, shape, and form to make as much money as possible, cutting costs wherever they can. And a lot of that comes from pretty limited interchanged packaging for the G.I. Joe series. However, the Spirit figure and this Bat figure has some individualized packaging, as you can see on the sides. And then on the back, it's not your typical just standard montage illustration of all the Joes and Cobra and stuff like that. So I'm going to pause the video really quick. I'm going to pop this figure out. We're going to look at the accessories and we're going to break this figure down. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to grade this figure based on the Meltzer scale, because that's really related to wrestling. But we're still going to talk about highs and lows and things I like and don't like about each of the figures, whether they're wrestling figures or not. Be right back. All right. So one of the nice things that I like about these types of boxes and this type of packaging is that take the figure out, you can always put it back in and still display it like it hasn't been taken out. Sure, that takes away from the mint on card or mint in box or whatever you want to say, but it gives you that option to do that if you want to take the figure out and look at it and mess with it and stuff like that. So here's first look at the Battle Android Trooper. Now, one of the big differences between this figure and the original figure from back in the day is that the original figure was all black, and the I don't know, the power screen or whatever was one of those little lenticular 3D guys that you could like do the little zip 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 with your fingernail. So this shows all of his components in his chest. Um, he's pretty highly detailed. I believe the visor or the screen or whatever it is originally on the 3 3/4 inch Real American Hero figure was silver. There wasn't a lot of color that I remember. Some of the stuff that I do remember from that figure is all of their accessories were silver as well. His joints are super tight, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. The really cool thing that we're seeing here is check out the detailing on the arms and the fingers and the hands. Just the sculpting alone that has gone into that is extremely intricate. You're going to see the inside of it a little less detailed on the inside than it is on the outside, but it's showing all the gears and gyros and stuff like that that you would have, hydraulics and things that would make the hand and the arm and stuff operate. It is kind of neat how he almost looks, he's got the human type body, he's got the clothing on him, and then you've got these mechanical arms, and you've got the robot head or whatever. This is one of those figures that, excuse me, you could almost think about as being something that Cobra does with respect to taking like wounded warriors, people who've had limbs, blown off from explosions or had amputations, and turn them into these like cyborg type warriors, and then recruit them because they're like, hey, look what we can give you, and then they become bad guys, kind of thing, which is kind of an interesting story if that's not already the case. And if it isn't, Hasbro, I just made you $1 million and I want my cut. So let's look at some of the detailing, rest of the detailing. You've got some grenades here on his grenade belt and his weapons belt, which is almost completely pointless when you think about it, because the belt doesn't really go anywhere, and it doesn't necessarily do anything else. If you had the belt go all the way across and there was a gun right here, I could see that. This kind of is superfluous design. Here's another one, one of the pouches on the side. If you have, a character that's cybernetic or that is all robot, it can carry a ton of weight. Things would still get cumbersome by putting the holster here and a bulkier belt and grenades. Like, you could have those attached to the outsides of the arm. You could have those on the backpack. The color scheme itself is kind of interesting. You've got this dark crimson jacket top kind of thing. You've got the black robotic arms. You've got the black head helmet with a red visor that doesn't match the red on the jacket. You've got these kind of warm or yellow gray pants. They're not even regular type fatigues. They don't have any pockets on them. So you're adding pouches, which is great for accessory purposes. It adds like perceived value, and it adds accoutrement and the look and stuff like that. But for practicality, cargo pants would be way more effective than having this pouch that unless it was actually a robot leg and it was like bolted in place, a belt that is actually on your thigh, unless it's attached like this, is going to be shifting around. It's going to be cumbersome. And, Rob Liefeld knows all about that. Then you've got these like kind of motorcycle style boots. yellow and black mainly. They almost look like ski or snowboard boots, or like I said, motorcycle boots. You've also got pouches on these, and then you've got this kind of strange cuff, but with the black plate in front and the kind of instep black plate, it's almost like armor. And the way that the front of the boot is shaped, you can see it's not shaped like a typical boot with a foot in it. So wondering if this is supposed to be more like it's got mechanical feet as well, which would make sense, but then why not go this route down here, you know, just to keep continuity with the figure. I don't mind the black and red. I don't mind the or scarlet. I don't mind the scarlet or crimson and gray. What I don't care for is the bright yellow, making this more like the eco warriors and the drug enforcement figures of the late 80s when G.I. Joe was starting to lose its luster a little bit. Even, you know, the crimson, the gray, and the black accents still work. But when you have this bright, almost fluorescent yellow associated with it, it kind of detracts. And if this is like your bad mama jamma on the battlefield, like, you know, he kind of looks stupid with the yellow accents. The rest of them still looks pretty cool. Some detail that I do want to point out on this leg strap. You've got your buckle, your fastening buckle here, and it's kind of hard to see, but there is texture right there on the strap, which is kind of a nice bonus. Those are little things that I like to notice about figures. You've got some detailing on the strap here, two different points of detail as well. And then when you look at, I'm not sure what that is, if that's a pouch of some kind, but it's very, very hard to see in the video. But there are actually like little rivets or fasteners on there. So I appreciate that, even if I don't like the color scheme. All right, so enough of that. He's got a Python Patrol chest plate, which again is kind of goofy, especially you're adding this, you know, this diamondback pattern, which is not really that reminiscent of like what a snake diamondback pattern looks like, or even a python pattern does. And then having the logo smacked on it when you've already got your cobra emblem on there. So let's pop this in place. Snaps in place, which is kind of nice. You know it's secure, which is good. All right, so he's got his backpack. This is a pretty good sized backpack and reminiscent of the pack that we saw back in the 3 3/4 inch line. I don't remember, you know, like these fuel pipes or, you know, power source or whatever. I do remember that he came with a detachable hand. He came with 3 accessories that you could put in the backpack. He came with the claw. He came with like a gun, and he came with like a laser blowtorch. And so you have your blowtorch. The detailing on this is really, really cool. You've got the air ports so that air is coming in when the fuel is being shot out. You've got your like spark igniter pilot light, and then you've got all the connectors that are associated with it. It's a really nice looking little piece, and the sculpt and the detail that went into this is super appreciated. This claw looks almost exactly like the claw that we saw back in the day. The only difference was all the accessories were silver. So you've got this like ratchety claw. Ratchety, that sounds bad. But with all the spikes on it, you know that it would ratchet open and like lock in place. And then you've got the point and the pad right here that's going to hold whatever he's picking up in place. There's a little bit of grit and or teeth to it. Again, this has a lot of really good detailing to it. You've got your hydraulic on that as well. Really nice extra bits of detail that are added there. And then I believe, and again, when I had this as a kid, I don't remember if it was a gun or if it was a laser. I think I treated it as a gun. But this is kind of like your cone gun. Not as detailed, but you know, not all the parts need to be as detailed, especially when you have something that's going to be a little more basic. If it's a laser, it doesn't need to be detailed in the sense that it needs to look like a firearm because it's futuristic. It, you know, its power is harnessed in the backpack or whatnot, and it'll just shoot out however. But there are some nice little details in here that you can see some of the ribbing and serration on there, and then just some of the ports that go into it. And it even has the barrel is emptied out, which is a really cool feature as well. The bat comes with a pistol with a sight. The grip has a back grip to it that the yellow almost matches the yellow, pretty much matches the yellow on his boots. You know, his yellow accessories. It's a little bit different. But this is a paint applique versus these being plastic pieces that were molded. You get a lot of really good value in this gun. I don't know why he needs a gun if he can do all this other stuff. And he would need this hand to change out this hand and these tools. You get the chamber, the barrel, you get the sight. The really cool thing about this is it includes a trigger, which a lot of like the old school guns didn't. But I think that had to do more with like the size of the gun itself. It was really hard to do that. And then you've got the little finger indentation, so this is going to fit perfectly in his hand. The backpack, again, has some nice detailing on it. So we've got, there's a port right there that I believe you're going to be able to plug one of these into. Yep, you can plug one in there, and then you can plug the other two up top. Super force these in because you know what? That might go there. That might be what that is. There we go. Put that there. I don't know. That seems more normal for it to be there. And then you put your pieces in here. And you put your claw in there. These little entry holes are kind of hard to see. The thing I like about these G.I. Joes is whether or not I like the design and the color scheme and stuff like that, the gun fits into the holster, which is always a nice thing. Knowing that a lot of these figures that G.I. Joe or Super 7 is putting out, they can carry all of their accessories at once, I'm pretty grateful for. Then you can take off his hand. I don't know if that one comes off. Does that one come off? Oh, snap. Both of them come off. I would assume that that would be the case anyways. So he can have his claw on one hand. And let's put his blowtorch on the other hand. See, back in the day with these bats, the only one hand came off. So then you could also put his hands in the backpack. I'm not going to stick them in there just because I don't want to stick them in and take them out. Um, but he looks pretty dope with his with all of his accessories. Although if he does have both of these on, um, how does he like I guess he could use the claw to take the blowtorch off, right? But then he's got to put the hand on in order to to take the claw off or to pick up his other weapon or something like that. So it is a little bit weird that he can you know utilize all of or take off both of his hands. Let's see how the gun fits in his hand. Both hands are actually built to be able to hold the gun. The the Crocmaster figure that I got last month was very difficult to get him to hold his weapons, and I was almost disappointed in it if it wasn't for how amazing that figure looked in detail. Really nice thing. Check this out. His finger fits all the way through the trigger guard. It works really, really well. You can have his, there goes his blowtorch. You can stick his other little hand in there. Put that in there. Um, these are it's a lot nicer than the original, just because of the scale. The little tabs could break off really easily. These are a little bit more hardy and sturdy, and then of course they're drilled and molded to fit really well. So I'm pretty psyched about this figure overall. The clashing color scheme notwithstanding, I would have preferred if they did all gray with black. Um, the crimson itself is a really cool color. I honestly love that color, but you have the Crimson Guard coming, and that's the color that those dudes wear. Also, when you get that chest plate, that red matches the visor. It doesn't match the top. So probably what I'm gonna do is just keep that off. Um, I don't know if there's like a spot to stick that. I think maybe, let's see here. I was hoping that the back of the backpack would have, like, since it's got those little vents, maybe actually that does. Let me see really, really quick. I'll be right back because we've already been going on 20 something minutes. The plate will not fit on the backpack slots, and the reason is there's this little tiny bump, and the little edges on the plate are a little bit too small to fit in that ridge. So, you know what? We'll just put that plate somewhere else for the time being while we're displaying this really cool looking figure. Because as much as the yellow accessories distract from this plate with a Python Patrol logo really doesn't fit with the seriousness of the collector of this design. Although I realize it's probably more for the nostalgia. But as far as I remember, the B.A.T came out before they started setting up things like Python Patrol. So you'll have to forgive my seriousness in not liking those specific accessories. I do like that it has a front plate. I just wish it was a basic plate, or maybe it had like something that looked more akin to that control panel that we had in the original with the lenticular. Might be able to outfit it with something like that. Just paint it a solid color and then put like an applique on it. I think that might work pretty well. Or even do something where it looks like it's taken some battle damage, like it's got some laser blasts or bullet holes associated with it. But yeah, this is a pretty cool looking figure. The detractions on it, of course, are the color choices. It's a little bit too many color choices for a character that's going to be out there and maybe doing some like subterfuge and like night work. You don't want them to look like this. You don't want them to stand out too much. But overall, like the dynamic of the figure, the construction of the figure, and the sculpt is pretty top notch. This might be one of the best looking figures out there. The other ones that I would put up there are all going to be Cobra. Firefly looks amazing. His downfall is that you can't really adjust his midsection. Like, you can't really do that back and forth because his entire costume is like this rubber plate. And then Crocmaster. Those are the coolest looking figures that Super 7 is putting out for these guys. If you'd like to see more GI Joe, I do have a lot of loose figures that I can break down. Won't be going over the packaging, obviously, but I've got other figures that I can take a look at, including Lady J, Scarlet, Snake Eyes, Spirit, Storm Shadow, Crocmaster, the Cobra Officer, and Firefly. So this is now my 9th GI Joe figure, and is now tipping the scales in favor of Cobra. Till next time, you guys take care of yourselves. Like I said at the beginning, breakdown is kind of a tongue-in-cheek reference to how I'm trying to take control and poke fun at my mental health, not at mental health, because it's a very serious thing, and we all need to take care of ourselves and take time and have down days, and that's got to be okay. We have to be okay with not go all the time, because that's not possible. That's going to lead to burnout. That's going to lead to your body and your mind breaking down. Sure, it's kind of nice because it doesn't leave you a lot of time to be alone with your thoughts, which is sometimes harmful for those of us with mental illness. But there is time for us to just take time for ourselves. So I ask that you consider that, not just for yourself, but for others as well. And let's be better. Talk to you soon.